Hello and welcome to the Foxcatcher preview show. My name's Julian Valens, joined up in Sin City by Nick Ashman. Howdy doody.
Howdy doody. I missed you on the review show. That's because we didn't have racing up here last Saturday. So I had the day off. I let you and Hutch at the helm. And guess what? It's raining again here in Sydney as I talked to you on Thursday morning. So we'll get to the track intel a little later on in the show, but plenty of action down your way with, of course, the P.B Lawrence.
Yeah, we're starting to heat up P.B Lawrence and then the 3-year-olds, the Vane and Quizette. So it's always a good sort of initiation that we're starting to get some good horses back. Let's get to the track intel of how we think Caulfield's going to play. Out 9 metres the entire circuit here. Now, currently I speak to you, Nico, it's a soft 6. It was a soft 7 yesterday, soft 6. Beautiful conditions Thursday. Absolutely sun, 18, 19 degrees, bit of wind about as well. So probably dries it out maybe to a 5. But then we get up to, say, 5 to 6 mils Friday predicted and then up to 3 mils on race day. Now, if you get the 3 mils race day, we know how much they can impact the track. If we get none, I don't know where we're going to sit. But I don't know if we'll get to the good 4. We'd need probably none of that rain to hit it all Friday or Saturday for us to get to a good 4. So I'm playing off a soft 5, soft 6 sort of situation. In terms of how I think the track's going to play, no wind about as well. We know Corfield can be impacted by the wind, but nothing to really speak of. I think it'll actually turn around. At one stage, it's going to be a southerly, then it hits to a northerly, and it's pretty light, I think, by race time. So shoot, forward of midfield and advantage. I think that's where I want to play for the shoot races. We know that's 1,000 to 1,200 metres. And for the circle, I think pretty even. This is actually interesting. Backmarker's okay in this scenario for me. And the other key factor here is leaders just become a little bit of a lower percentage play. So that's still not to say if you get it soft in front around the circle, you can't win. It's just to say usually Caulfield, leaders, circle, big advantage. Just drops off a little bit in this scenario. So just be mindful of that. But I did find it surprising. Backmarker's okay. So they might get their chance as well. But I am expecting it to be pretty even around the circle. That's the track intel for Caulfield. Righto, Nico, let's get to the Fox factors and we try and identify for the viewers just something that might be of interest when they're doing their form that they might need to be looking at this time of the year for whatever reason it might be. And going to talk about early spring, the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds. So we know August 1, that's the horse's birthday, so the 2-year-olds become 3 and the 3-year-olds become 4. I think, and you may disagree with me, but you may agree with me, is that it's the biggest leap in terms of progression from a 2-year-old to a 3-year-old. And I think we see that a lot, that some 2-year-olds that were outstanding as 2-year-olds just don't grow, and some that we haven't really seen go through the roof.
About 5 or 6 years ago, it's a good one from you, Julesy. 5 or 6 years ago, I drilled down on a ratings database to look at the biggest progression a horse takes. It's from its first prep to its second prep. So that ties in with what you're saying, 2-year-old to 3-year-old. I'd refine that further and say from prep 1 to prep 2. Prep 1's usually a learning curve for trainers. They're learning the idiosyncrasies about the horse, how the horse handles training, what kind of training it responds to, and then race day pressure, etc. Prep 2 is when the trainer knows what's going on, knows how to get the most out of the horse. So that's when you see the biggest progression. So yes, I tend to agree with you. I think it's 2 to 3. And that's when we usually see most horses go from first prep to second prep.
Okay, and the reason why we're talking about that is on Saturday at Corfield, and I think even maybe up there in Sydney you got the Rosebud as well. But in Melbourne, we've got the Vane and the Quizette. So 1,100 metres for the boys, the 3-year-olds, and we've got the Quizette, the 1,100 metres for the fillies. And I think in this kind of scenario, we see these horses and we go, geez, I want to back these. They're so excited to be back. We've had probably a month and a half of poor horses running around. Now we get to see some horses that we know are going to probably be main players in, say, 1,000 guineas or a Coolmore stud stakes. And we see them with our eyes light up and go, I've got to be with it. It was so good last prep. How good's it going to be? But I think this is especially the race day for me, and especially those 2 races, the Vane and the Quizette, and you might have the same thing for the Rosebud, is that I think it's just one of these races where we just watch and learn. That we don't actually have to invest too much into it. And maybe you want to invest something at a bigger price, and that's fine. But those horses at the pointy end, I want to see them come back first. I want to see if they have matured, have they grown, all that kind of stuff. And there's just no need to invest on a day like tomorrow or Saturday in the Vane and the Quizette.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm of the opinion that if you've got an opinion that you should back yourself in. So if you think this is a really nice horse and you think, hey, it's running in a listed race or a Group 3 race, I reckon it's a Group 1 horse. I'm getting $4 about it here. I think it's going to start $3 in a Group 1 in a few weeks' time. Then you got to back yourself. But if you're sitting on the fence, you're not sure, you don't have that gut feeling that punters get, then just, as you say, watch and learn. Look at the figures. Look at which ones have improved the most over the break, and that'll give you a real good look towards the future.
And I agree with what you're saying, but the sort of counterpoint to that as well is absolutely, people could say Scenic Point is the filly and they go, she's going to be a Group 1 filly, right? She looks to have the numbers. She looks to be a better 3-year-old. But it's like the Quizette on Saturday is not her grand final. She doesn't need to win the Quizette. What she needs to win possibly is the 1,000 guineas in 2 months' time. And so you think, well, is she going to be fully screwed down at 1,100? Maybe she is. And maybe to your point, you go, well, you know what? I know she's going to be, or I know she's going to be 95%, and that's going to be good enough to win the race. And that's fine, and then you can have the bet. But I just think we know it's not their grand final, these kinds of races, so we just got to be careful of that as well. We always talk about it. You talk about it a lot, that trainers peak their horses for grand finals. Well, you can't peak two times or 3 times in a prep.
I was doing some work for a client only a couple of days ago who owns that Escher, who won at the Valley last weekend. And we were talking about the listed Captain Tybes versus the Red Roses Group 3 race. Red Roses Group 3, the other one's listed. You look at the honour roll, the Captain Tybes down the straight in a couple of weeks' time, or a few weeks' time, has got a much better honour roll than the Group 3 Red Roses, and it always rates higher. That's because the fillies that win it, such as September Run and Bellatrix Star, usually go on to compete in the Coolmore Stud Stakes, whereas if you've competed in the Coolmore Stud Stakes, you're not backing up into a Red Roses. So it's all about understanding the progression that these fillies are going to take, all colts, and then sort of working out where they're going to end up and whether or not the right price for being 85 or 95% fit is this Saturday.
Yeah, it's a really good point. The other part I want to mention just now is these progressive 4-year-olds. So I think this is a really good time for the 3-year-olds that have just turned 4. I don't want to see them in the deep end at the weight for age unless they're the elite, unless they're the absolute elite that have rated really well in their 3-year-old season. But what I love is progressive 4-year-olds usually can't get their rating high enough because they haven't been had the afforded to be able to run in better class races. So you get them in these benchmark races that we see on Saturday against older horses that we've seen enough and we know what their level is at. We don't know where the ceiling is for some of these progressive 4-year-olds, and they usually get on the minimum in these benchmark races, and they're the times I want to back those horses. So I think that's a point too at this time of the year. You can find these progressive 4-year-olds that we don't know where the ceiling is, that you want to play into that part, but not so much in the weight for age scale. I don't know if you've got an opinion on that, but I love backing the 4-year-olds in the benchmark races this time of year.
What I'll do is I'll extend upon that and say I like backing the 4-year-olds in Group 1 handicaps in the spring if I'm going to back them. They tend to struggle in the weight for age races. And Chris Waller, I've got a huge opinion of Aliana before she won the Derby. I was speaking about her. I thought she might be a potential Cups horse then. It's interesting to hear Chris say he doesn't really want to target that race with her, the Caulfield Cup I'm talking about now. He wants to give her as much time as possible. Maybe he learnt the lesson with Very Elegant. She was a much better horse, her year after winning the Oaks, if that makes any sense. So, but where the races where they typically do, and I know typically win the 4-year-olds, is the Group 1 handicaps. Now, I know I've just spoken about a Group 1 handicap with the Caulfield Cup, but if you look towards the Epsom handicaps, your 2 racks, they're the types of races that those top ones tend to win. They win them on the way through. They get in on the minimum or maybe a kilo or so above, and they're basically a weight for age horse in the making, but they just need that little bit of help in their spring 4-year-old season because a lot of them, when they go to the Group 1 races, Julesy, as you know, haven't actually technically turned 4. Yes, their birthday is August 1, but some of them might have been bought in October, maybe even November.
Yeah, absolutely a really good point. That's the Fox Factors this week. All right, let's get to the feature race here, Nico, at Caulfield. It's a Group 2 P.B. Lawrence, so it's kick-off 1,400 metres for a lot of people. Here's the points bet market that we've got here. We've got your boy actually in particular, Private Oy. He misses the race last week in Sydney, comes down 1,400 metres first up. He's in the market with Evaporate, who looks to be one of those progressive 4-year-olds that can make a statement, possibly in these weight for age races. Here to Shock, I thought was his best prep ever. It's at around single figures as well. And then you sort of get out to sort of another progressive 4-year-old in Seppel. So there's a bit in this race. That's the market. Have you got any intel just from a bit of history tells us?
Yeah, look, it's been a good race for favourites, so it's good to identify that market early doors. 7 wins over the last 14 or 15 years, so striking at 47%. If you had $100 on every favourite since 2010, you'd be up around $780. So it's been a good race for those favourites. In terms of double digits, there's only been one horse in the last 18 years to win at double digits, and that was Star Rolling in 2014. In terms of your barriers 5 to 9 have generated the most winners over the last 15 years, striking a bit over 15%. And then just looking sort of a little bit beyond that, 9 of the last 12 winners have been first up, including 4 of the last 6. So most of these horses are resuming, except for Yellow Sam, which I know you'll talk about in a few moments' time.
We will talk about Yellow Sam because we're going to get to the speed map here, Nico. And so you can see the speed map. And this is how I've sort of mapped it out. But then I'm also going to say that's not how it's going to look because I'm going to tell you how it's going to look. Well, I hope this is how it's going to look. So just the starting point is, though, Waller's got these 3 Yulong horses that he's sort of, and we know that Full Count Felicia is a horse that goes forward. Went forward in the Ranvet. And you think I know this is
different over 1,400.
This is right, and this is 1,400 metres, and also Waller's had it now for a prep. And I'd be really interested in your thoughts. Do you think he's maybe got them to try and all settle? And maybe he has, maybe he hasn't, maybe they've just got speed. So as a starting point, I don't really know what those 3 Yulong horses are going to do. We know that Full Court Felicia does go forward, but I don't think she's going to lead this race, and I'll get to that shortly. But just want your opinion on those 3 Yulong horses of if they've now had a prep with Waller, had some time away, worked with them, is there a possibility now he just wants them to all sort of just settle and become sort of how Chris Waller trains his horses?
Yeah, look, maybe. Obviously, they're out here. They've been purchased for a fair bit of money overseas, so they're here to try and win a Group 1 race. Yeah. Full Count Felicia has shown pace in her races and also in her trials. Now, the race was over 2,000 metres around it that you referred to, but she's gone forward in her trials. I don't think that any of those 3 mares are going to beat Private Eye if they sit behind him in a jog trot because he's got a good turn of foot. He's a dual Everest place getter. So I would think that the best option for any of those mares is to make sure it's a genuinely run race. So Full Count Felicia is not going to do herself any harm by rolling forward from barrier 10. Short run to the first turn over 1,400 metres at Caulfield. We've got to talk about that as well, Jules.
Yep.
You know, if you're drawn wide, you got to make your mind up as soon as those barriers open. You don't have time to sit there and watch. You got to hum across the face of the field, or you got to snag yourself back. So I tend to think Full Count Felicia will hum across the face of the field. Question is, does a fit Yellow Sam kick up underneath her? And there's a horse like Private Eye, and to a lesser extent, Desert Lightning, who are coming off a less traditional break of just 63 days, having run in the Stradbroke Handicap. They're probably going to want to use their little bit of residual fitness as well to their advantage, although Private Eye won't want to use himself up too much first up at 1,400 metres.
This is the point, and it's a really good point you mentioned is they're first up at 1,400 metres and it's a Group 2 race. They don't need to win this. I mean, you all want to win every race you contest in. There's no doubting that. But you could look at this field and you go, well, most of these probably in 2 weeks' time want to be at their, well, much fitter and much bigger chance in a Memsey, a Group 1 opportunity. So here, do they do what you just said? A horse like Here to Shock, a horse like Private Eye, do they want to bite the bullet and roll forward? Because it can absolutely tarnish your prep if you get posted on a hot speed and you cast for the prep if you do it. And I just don't know if they want to waste that opportunity in a Group 2 P.B. Lawrence. So maybe they don't roll forward. I know what horse will roll forward. It's got the blinkers back on and it's drawn gate 2 and it's Yellow Sam, and she will be given the instructions to lead at all costs. She will be there to lead and hold them out and try and break them. Because the idea is she's not the best horse in the race. We know that. She's not the classiest horse in the race. What we do know is she's probably the fittest. And what we do know is that she'll go forward and she just might have these horses chasing when they don't want to chase. And so, look, she's a big price, but there's going to be a bit of excitement in that camp because I think they think that they can pinch this race if they ride her like that.
Is it fair to say as well that she probably wants the track as dry as possible? Not because she can't handle a wet surface, but just so that inside lanes stay right intact so she can kick off that bend and put a margin on them.
I will say she's an absolute beast on a wet track. So I get that. So the only point to that is maybe they'll just try and venture off. You know, if you can control your own destiny when you lead anyway. So Jamie Mock can end up 5 off the rail if he wants, if he leads at his own will, which they're going to try and do. It'll just be interesting from the map perspective of what horses do go with her, because they're at a chance of busting themselves up. And I'll make that very, very clear that if you decide to go forward, you're in for one hell of a torrid run because she's going to go out there to bust you up. So that's the map. So hopefully that scares a few off and they all go back now, and then she just gets an easy lead and wins by 5. So let's see what happens.
I think you'll find Private Eye will be up there as well.
Yeah.
So I think he'll make sure that it's not a jog trot. Not so much that it's not he's happy for a jog trot, I reckon, because he's got a good turn of foot,
if he sits outside Yellow Sam, he's going to beat Yellow Sam. There's no doubting that.
He's got to get there, though.
But if Hit a Shot goes with him, if Full Count Felicia goes with them, and they're all sort of like, then they don't know where they're going to go, and then one's posted wide, and they went, you know what, we've just torched it here. We should have just gone back, took our medicine, and we would have been able to finish off through the line, and we would have been absolutely gung-ho for a Memsey. That's what I'm trying to think. That's what I'm trying to get across here, is that I just don't know what a few of these horses want to do. Anyway, that's the P.B Lawrence, and I think it's going to be a fascinating race from a speed map point of view. Righto, viewers, now it's time for my Victorian set. Obviously, we go to Caulfield, and I went into this meeting going, okay, buyer beware here, but it's jam-packed, so you'll need a few pens.
Look out.
Yep.
Look out.
Pumped.
I'm going to look interested as you talk.
Race 2. Race 2, number 15, Skipper's Canyon each way. You can get that 440, 460, whatever it is. There's still a couple of emergencies, but they might get into the race. In particular, Mac Dane, who probably rolls forward and might be the hardest to run down. Bit worried about that horse. But Skipper's Canyon, off 158 days, New Zealand horse, won a maiden over there over a bit of distance, 2000. Then they put it in the deep end, Group 3, went no good. First up here, Philip Stokes, 1,400 metres Sandown, not the right race, not wanted in the market, little bit of specking late, sat a mile off them and came through like just a really good horse. And I was like, okay, looks great to the eye. And then the number just lit up as well in terms of its performance. Race probably don't want to get excited about. But I was like, I just can't wait to see this horse again. Its last 400 time was outstanding. 1,800 metres, perfect. I think the gate's perfect. Hopefully it can settle a little bit closer. It was a long way back at 1,400 metres, but I think that was just probably, hey, let's just settle it, see what happens, let it follow through the line. Now we can settle a little bit closer at 1,800 metres with that gate. Skipper's Canyon, outstanding bet each way. Want to be with it. In race 2. Race 3, I'm having 2 bets. Sassy Boom. We identified this with Hutchie in the Fox's Den. It was a horse that we just wanted to follow. It just was left a sitting shot last start. 5th up here, 5th up last prep at 1, just the right setup. Apprentice goes on. It might be a senior jockey horse. That's the one query, but it draws 1 and might be able to navigate a path there. It'll be on speed, hard to run down. Race 3, number 7, Gala Queen. Got to be with this horse. I marked it around $293. The price out there is just tasty. I love Blake Shing going on. Map could be sticky, but Blake on, I don't think this horse will know. It's going to have some big, significant improvement, I think, Gala Queen. Blake on, that's a big positive. Race 4, Kappa 39. Again, put the writing on the wall first up. I thought it was a good performance behind De Bergerac last start. 1,400 metres. Look, the record suggests not great, but I just think it can sit on speed with the Apprentice. Low weight, want to be with it. Kappa 39 in race 4. Race 7, interested to get your thoughts here, Nico, because I'm playing in this race and I'm playing with 2 horses. One that I think is the fit horse, Lose Some, Win More. I think it's deep into a prep. Corfield's probably not its track. It might be a big track horse, but I just think from that gate, smallish field, it can be in the right spot. 1,200 metres, again, slight query, but just want to be with it. And also want to be with Royal Insignia. We talk about this a lot in terms of Graham Begg tax, but look at these stats, Nico, and then I'll get to you. Under $5 in the metro area in Victoria since January 1st this year. 18 from 39, 46%. The market expectation's massive at 36% and just busting it up and you're winning so much money. 3 jump outs. He takes his horses to the races when they're ready and he places them in the right races. He doesn't waste runs. That strike rate is someone that doesn't waste runs. So I want to be with Royal Insignia. But it's an interesting interesting race, this race 7, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The only query with Royal Insignia is the map, where the horse gets to. I've got to go maybe 3 back along the rails, and then it might be one of those horses that you go, I want to back at next start. Lose Some, Win More. You can have him. I think he's a better straight horse, and I think his price is factoring his straight track data and not the fact that he goes around the bend. The horse I want to be with, but geez, I wish they just took it through the bloody grades. Papa Ward, what are you doing here? Yeah. This is a really, really nice mare, 4 from 6. I think she's up to this level, but she's coming out of a benchmark 78. just would have liked to have seen her maybe tick off a couple more benchmark ratings, but I'm really keen to see her and how she goes on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, lose some, win more is on the minimum, and it's rated 91 or 90. Now, Papa Ward's rated 77. Now, I get it. They're trying to get black type with this horse, but I just would have thought there'd be plenty of mares races around. She's rated in the 70s. Right. You can win 3 or 4 races, work your way through your grades. We put her in the Fox's Den last start. It was the race of the day. It rated through the roof. She's a really quality horse, but it just might come a bit too soon for her. Don't be surprised if she wins, but I just thought I'd like, as you said, pick your way through your grades, win some cash, and then put her into something like this, but they may know better than me. And in race 8, number 11, we've spoken about the P.B Lawrence. I'm backing Yellow Sam each way. Roll forward. Take them out of their comfort zone. Blinkers on again. She's there to win. She's the fittest horse in the race. She will give you a run for your money. That's my set. There's a lot in it. Let's hope we fill our pockets. Let's get to New South Wales, Nico. Rosehill, rain about. Rail goes out 1 metre, so we're just at 1 metre, I think, the entire circuit. Are we going to be on a soft or heavy, or are we in between?
Oh, I wouldn't know. Look, I'm probably heavy, but I think it's, somewhere between a 7 and an 8 is probably where you want to be doing your form. It's a bit hard to tell. It depends on how much rain falls. The intel is it'll still play off rail with lanes 4 plus the best ground. Back markers should be in play for races over 1,300 metres or more. Just remember those sprint races, it's a hairpin turn into the home straight. So saving ground's always an advantage. So moving through to the set now, race 1. I think we get the chocolates early here. King Rattel for Bryce Hayes. 9-year-old gelding, blinkers back on. Can you believe it? He just drops back in grade to a benchmark 72. Two of his 3 wins have been in benchmark 72 grade. He comes back from that Diamond Lil race. I think he maps to sort of get the right run, just back off the pace and weaving through the ruck. He's going to need a little bit of luck at the right time, but his ratings, 4th up from a spell, he looks set to peak here, and I love the drop in grade. We move on then to race 2, Highway Handicap. Can you believe it? I didn't think I'd be tipping one in this. I just thought Powder Man for the Grisdale camp. Tommy Berry was on this horse last time out and just didn't have much luck. I think he'll be set to atone on Saturday. The horse was 4 weeks between runs going into that Highway Handicap here at Rosehill over the 1,200 metres. Wide gate, not so much of an issue now because it's a 1,300-metre start point, so they're not from the inside part of the track. Loves a bit of cut in the ground, this galloper, and I just think he'll strip fitter, and with an ounce of luck, he should be really hard to beat. And then the last of the treble for me comes up in race 6, Johnny Travolta, a little bit of Saturday night fever if this thing wins. Here's something for you. This horse, he was 2 from 9 coming into this prep. He's now 2 from 3. This preparation, he's flying. Both wins have been with Jason Collett in the saddle. He gets Sienna Grima in the saddle, who's a 3-kilo apprentice. And I was a little bit concerned about her, but geez, I tell you what, she's striking at 17% from her last 100 rides, and beating market expectations by 80% in her last 100 rides. That's why Chris Waller has said, hello, come over here, and has given her a couple of rides on these horses. So really interested to see how this 3-kilo apprentice goes on an informed horse. Interested to see how the market reacts as well. Typically, they'll push a 3-kilo claimer out the door a bit on a Saturday Metro. But I wouldn't be surprised with these recent stats for Grima that this horse might actually hold its call. So that's the set for me for New South Wales.
Beautiful. My set. Then obviously the Sydney Intel was there, and then obviously Nick's set. We are done for that. Righto, Nico, I just noticed in your set, nothing in the Rosebud. So these 2-year-olds, now 3-year-olds, sort of sets up to be sometimes of a good race. Anything for the viewers that should be looking for?
I've got the binoculars out, and I'm looking at Peloton, and I'll tell you why. He's always had a little bit of a spruik on him, and I know Colts, whatever. But he's looked very sharp in 2 trials. The data out of those 2 trials are very good. On my stuff, he's got the best peak rating in the race. Keep in mind, Skyhook ended up in the Golden Slipper last preparation. I think if he wins this first up, I don't know if he's a Golden Rose horse. I don't think he gets 1,400, but I think you might see him trend towards a Coolmore stud stakes. He might win this. He might then go on to the Run to the Rose, see what happens there. Of course, if he wins that, he probably has to have a crack at the Golden Rose, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up down your neck of woods for the Coolmore Stud Stakes. He's $51 with PointsBet right now for the Coolmore Stud Stakes. You could do worse things than have $20 on that, because if he wins on Saturday and he wins really well, like the hype suggesting he might do, I think he'll trim up for that race more than anything.
Beautiful. I like that. I'll do worse things in the next 2 hours. So that's actually a very good pointer for the punters. Let's get to snap or don't snap.
The line's at 10 minutes.
Just don't snap. But obviously when we do snap or don't snap, we're trying to tell punters whether the horse is going to drift or firm. And usually what we're saying is with our sets, that's what we think all those horses are going to firm with our set. So that's why we don't put many snaps in this section, because it'll just be doubling up. But for the sake of this, race 2, number 12, Federer, $3.20, $3.30 right now, PointsBet. I don't want to be with this horse at that price. I know it's got the blinkers first time and it's in a good camp and it's been consistent. I just think the market's going to be sick of this horse, and I think from the wide gate, just don't know where it gets to. Race 3, Sacred Rocks. Similar sort of setup. It's been up in your neck of the woods, this horse, but just running on really wet tracks. Comes down again now, gets the claim. Just think it's been through the rigmarole. I think there's horses with a better profile, in particular number 7, Gala Queen. It's going to be a snap for the sake of this. As I said, I think most of my horses that I tip, I've backed, I expect them to snap and start shorter. But for the sake of this, we'll put Gala Queen in at around 360, 370. I think it starts much shorter than that. I'd be taking that price now because I know I have. That was the snap or don't snaps.
Gala Queen's a snap.
Gala Queen's a snap. Federer's a don't snap. Sacred Rocks is a don't snap.
Beautiful, man. Federer's a bit of a joker.
Let's get to pin the tail. We've got to be quick. Last week, Mornington Glory ended up SPing 310. After the deductions, you were 275. I was 245. You are closest. The market spat him out big time. They wanted to obviously be with the winner, Oak Hill, which we spoke about in the review. Scenic Point this week. Philly.
Yep.
Big numbers. I've gone $2.40. You're going?
I've gone 275 just in case there's a bit of rain around. I think they might risk her then.
Yep, beautiful. Fair enough. Great to see her back. Okay, my play of the day comes up early. Race 2, number 15, Skipper's Canyon, was outstanding first up at Sandown. New Zealand horse. Gets to 1,800 metres really quickly. We've got no knock on that at all. 460, 440, back at each way. Want to be with Skipper's Canyon. I think it's a nice progressive horse. Race
1, number 2 at Rosehill for me is the play of the day. King Rattel, he drops back to benchmark 72 grade where he is 2 from 3. He's 4th up from a spell where he's also got a victory on the board. I think he maps reasonably well to get a cushy run and get to the outside and hopefully blouses them late.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.